Hello, and welcome to the Air Force Child Development Program's Accountability and Supervision Training. In this training, we're going to talk about accountability and supervision and what it means to take true account of your children. In all instances, no matter what it is, we are solely responsible for the care of our children every minute that they are in our care. During your time with children, you're going to be responsible for making sure that each child is signed into the Air Force Form 1930. The primary purpose of the Air Force Form 1930 daily attendance record is to maintain accountability of children in attendance at the CDC. When used as intended, the Air Force Form 1930 can show accountability for the number of children in care at any given time. And it can identify specific CDC personnel assigned to each child and document evidence of arrival and departure times of both children and CDC personnel. Parents can also use the form to record daily instructions for the child for the care of their child. Overview. Each ratio group of children must have an Air Force Form 1930 with CDC personnel signed in for accountability purposes. CDC personnel must print their first and last names on the Air Force Form 1930 when they assume responsibility for a specific group of children. CDC personnel must indicate the time responsibility is assumed by signing in once they have verified the names with the children in the group. This doesn't just mean doing a name-to-face accountability, but physically counting each child that is in the room. CDC personnel must sign out when they leave the room or area or are no longer responsible for a particular group of children. CDP personnel must indicate the time responsibility is assumed and unassumed. This includes lunch breaks, morning and afternoon breaks, phone calls, etc. Extra CDC personnel assigned to classrooms to assist with transitions such as breakfast, lunch, or rest time must sign in and out of the Air Force Form 1930. Other visitors, such as TNCs, directors, who are in and out of the room but are not responsible for the care of children, do not sign in to the Air Force Form 1930. CDC personnel must ensure children are signing in on the Air Force Form 1930 each day. At times of low attendance, CDC personnel may sign in on multiple Air Force Form 1930s as long as the total number of children for whom they are specifically accountable for does not exceed the designated ratio for their assigned group. Again, the ratio groups for infants is 4 babies to 1 provider. For pre-toddlers, it is 5 pre-toddlers to 1 provider. Your toddler age group, 7 toddlers to 1 provider. And then in specific age group, in specific preschool rooms, you have either a 9-to-1 ratio, 9 preschoolers to 1 teacher, or 12 preschoolers to 1 teacher. CDP personnel must ensure that children are in their assigned classroom each day. The Air Force Form 1930 must always be taken during any evacuation, including fire drills, providing accountability of children, and in the event of an emergency, such as a fire or bomb threat evacuation. The Air Force Form 1930 is used to verify that all children are present and safely accounted for. A system must be in place to verify the Air Force Form 1930 with the number of children in care. Hourly, the Air Force Form 1930s must be verified with the Air Force Form 1182 or equivalent by visually counting the children in the classroom in the CDC. Because of the importance of the Air Force Form 1930, CDP personnel must be responsible for his or her own entries. In other words, CDC personnel should not sign in and out for other personnel who forgot to sign out on the form. These omissions should be highlighted and management should follow up with the employee. It is everyone's responsibility to ensure that the Air Force Form 1930s are accurate and up to date. For CDC employees, CDC personnel must ensure that children are signed in on the Air Force Form 1930 each day. The parents must write in the child's full name and notate when the child arrives and departs. If the parents pick up the child in the middle of the day and returns the child the same day, the parents must sign the child in and out every single time. Pre-printed Air Force Form 1930s may be used. However, the forms must be accurate and current. Please make sure that you check the date and the area/room number that you are signing into each day. When a child is moved from one age group ratio to another, CDC personnel must indicate the time the responsibility for that child was relinquished and the location of the child in the comments section. For example, room 6, bus, or isolation room. CDP personnel accountable for the child's supervision must sign the child in on the Air Force Form 1930. Children leaving the facility by bus should have a signed parental permission slip. on file approving relinquishing accountability of the child to the appropriate school personnel. Children arriving by bus are signed in by the person escorting the child or children from the bus to the classroom. During times when the children from various classrooms are combined in one classroom, an Air Force Form 1930 for each separate ratio group is maintained to avoid the need to copy. The children's names from one form to another. The Air Force Form 1930 should be maintained on a clipboard in the same area where the group of children is located. The Air Force Form 1930 should be consistently placed in the area easily found by the program CDC personnel and parents. An Air Force Form 1930 must accompany children on any field trip outings to include buggy rides and walks. During rest time for children over the age of 24 months of age, one CDC personnel may be responsible for both ratio groups if another CDC professional remains in the facility and to assist with emergencies. To ensure accountability is maintained, both CDC personnel are signed in on the Air Force Form 1930 at all times. Cooks, food service workers, and desk clerks may not be responsible for a group of children. Children may be signed out of a classroom by an early intervention specialist or similar professional if parents have given permission. An early intervention specialist is responsible for evacuating the child to the evacuation point during fire drills or emergency evacuations. You have received this 1930 training, but we're going to talk about more. This is an example of an Air Force Form 1930. Right here is going to be where you put your room number and the date this specific 1930 is used. Children are going to go here, and daily health checks will be annotated here as well. Remember, if there is any anomalies in the daily health checks, an accident report should be written and given to the director or supervisor on duty. Please make sure that staff are signing in their names here. When you sign in your name here, that means that one child has signed in here with the date, with the time in. This time in should match with the time the first provider is in. When that provider leaves, they're going to sign out, and then the next provider taking over accountability for those children should sign in. These times should match and overlap, but never have a gap in time. At the end of the day, when everybody is out, you will sign and initial your time annotations here to ensure that these are your initials, or these are your times that you have annotated, taking responsibility for the time that you are accountable for the children in the classroom. Please do not sign in or out for other providers in your classroom. It is their responsibility. This is a legal Air Force document. Black or blue ink is used only. Any scribbles or Sharpies, pink highlighter, yellow crayons, anything like that cannot be used. If you scribble, or if a parent scribbles, kindly remind them to only put one line in their initials to annotate the mistake. The box surrounding all of the required fields of this document cannot be written on, the outer box here, so please do not write on the outside of this box. If there are any questions about the 1930 instructional guide, please contact your training and curriculum specialist or your director. To go with this, there's an authorization pickup form for each child who has an emergency authorized pickup person. This specific document is only for front desk staff. Parents are not allowed to make copies, photocopies, or scans of these documents. These are legal documents, Air Force documents, and they are to be protected and used confidentially. This is an authorization pickup form. The child's name is going to go here. The adult that is on the emergency pickup list is going to be here, and the phone number of the person who you are relinquishing the accountability to, the age group of that child, the classroom that the child is in, the date and the time that the child was picked up. The front desk who you're going to get this paper from is going to sign here, And you, the provider, are going to sign down here. You do not give this paper back to the parents. You're going to keep it with your Air Force Form 1930. To go along with our supervision and accountability training, we have an accident report. This accident report is also a legal document and should be treated as such. Here, we have an example of a accident report. You put the child's name here, your name here, the date and the time that the accident occurred. Because this is a legal document, you're going to ensure that this is very descriptive. You're going to write exactly what happened with the child. If the child comes up to you and you happen to not see the accident, you're going to say, so-and-so came up to me and said that they were running outside on the playground when they tripped and skinned or scraped their knee, their right knee. There's a 2-inch scrape on her right knee and the skin is broken and the area was washed. This child returned to play. You may not include the names of other children on a person's accident report. At the end of the day, the parents will sign the accident report and you will call for a code 7, which is a supervisor, to come down and take the accident report up to the front desk to call the parents. Accountability and supervision also goes much deeper than that. It is important because the health and safety of the children is our top priority. Accountability is everybody's responsibility. Parents, desk clerks, kitchen staff, managers, and supervisors. Not just providers. The ratios. Having an adequate number of adults to protect the health and safety of children is vital to accountability. Going over the ratios yet again, we have child to provider ratio dependent on the age category. Infants 4:1, pre-toddlers 5:1, toddlers 7:1, and preschool, which is 12:1. In some rooms, it is 9:1. It is never appropriate to have more children than what your ratio allows, so please ensure that you are doing a name-to-face accountability every single hour and ensuring that nobody is over ratio. If a parent drops off a child that will put you out of ratio, please tell them to wait in the classroom while you immediately call for a code 6 over the walkie-talkie. If a parent refuses to wait, please notify the supervisor on duty immediately. Being out of ratio is a safety hazard, and you can never be out of ratio. Remember, during rest time with children over the age of 24 months may double if the majority of the children in the room are asleep. The assigned teaching staff member must be readily available to return to the classroom as children awake or as needed. Sufficient staff is required to remain in the building during rest time to meet the required ratios and to assist with emergencies. That means if you are in a toddler or a preschool room and half of the children are asleep, one of you guys can go out, perhaps work on modules, refill bleach, and assist with front desk operations if possible. Remember, you are not allowed to go into another classroom and be accountable for other children while signed in on a different room's 1930. You are also not allowed to go and answer a code 4 because that means that you would be relinquishing your accountability of the children whose original 1930 you were signed in on. In the event of an emergency, you wouldn't be able to go back to your assigned room because then you would have to leave the current room that you're in to go be in ratio somewhere else. Please ensure that you are not signing in on two 1930s at one time. Name to face. When accounting for children on the 1930, the staff member should call out the name of each child and visually check to make sure the child is in the group. Staff members must know how many children they are responsible for at all times. When do you do a name to face? When leaving the classroom, walks, playground time, fire drills, combining rooms, moving kids over, etc. When arriving and entering into a classroom from outside, combining rooms, moving children over to a new room. And when you sign in and out of the 1930, remember, you are not putting your initials after you sign out. You are going to put your initials on the form at the end of the day. What is a code atom? A code atom means that there is a child that is missing. What do you do if you call a code atom? Immediately contact the front desk or supervisor via a walkie-talkie to notify them that you have called a code atom and the room number that you are in. Stay in the location until a supervisor arrives. The front desk staff will Contact the director or assistant director, who will then take the appropriate action. A statement will be written by all staff members involved describing the incident. What do you do if you hear a code atom? Take a true accounting of the children in your care, matching the individual children with the Air Force Form 1930. Do not leave your location. Remember, not only you're doing name to face with the 1930, but you're also counting all of the children in your classroom. Wait for the front desk to call your room and ask for your count. Do not call the front desk. And wait for the announcement of the all clear. Supervision also accounts for facility design. Hallways and closet doors have windows for viewing, as outlined in the AFI 34-144 13.6. Lights must be left on at all times when the building is in use, including closets and windows, adult restrooms, offices, and storage room, as accounted for in the AFI 34-134 13.6. Cubbies and shelves are the correct height so that way children can be seen. Mirrors added to walls and ceilings to eliminate blind spots within the classrooms are also used to augment supervision, but never to supersede it. Playgrounds. It is important to remember that when you are outside on the playground, to always ensure that you are never out there by yourself. Upon entering the playground, please ensure that you have another person out there with you. When exiting the playground, please make sure that you guys are all going in at the same time, communicating extra specially to make sure that nobody is left outside by themselves. When you're outside on the playground, there is a term called zoning. Zoning occurs when the playground area is divided equally amongst the children and the providers themselves. Remember, nobody can be out of ratio, and if you are sidetracked and in a place where there are no children, you are out of ratio. Supervision also accounts for infant and baby rooms. Having a name-to-face accountability of children before feeding them their bottles can mitigate safety risks, such as giving children bottles that are not theirs. Dictating and accounting for the amount of time it's been in between bottles and diaper changes is also very important. Please make sure that you are writing legibly to ensure that other providers know when the next bottle is due. Please make sure that you have the appropriate children in your care. Sometimes siblings look very much alike. Identical twins also look very much alike, so you may have to make some distinguishing differences between those two. This is your accountability and supervision training. Please ensure that if you have questions, you contact your training and curriculum specialist, your supervisor, and your director. Thank you.